People of the internet, RetroRaconteur here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the new hit PS5 title, Returnal, and 5 ways it's similar to one of my favorite series of all time, Metroid. Oh dude, this actually reminds me of the opening of Metroid Prime right there. Remember Metroid Prime when it's like looking up and then it pans down? And then you get the bum 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 bum. Now, a lot of these comparisons will be to Metroid Prime, however, there are some to the older 2D Metroid games as well. Prime may be a first-person shooter, or first-person adventure as Nintendo preferred to call it, while Returnal is a third-person roguelike, but there are still numerous elements along the way that make it pretty clear to me Housemarque took at least some inspiration from the Metroid series. Number 1. The atmosphere. For both games, it really starts with the atmosphere. This struck me almost immediately when I booted up Returnal for the first time. Sure, there are plenty of games that take place in space, but not all of them focus on the quiet mystery of space begging to be explored. From the moment Celine's ship crashes onto an unfamiliar planet, you're met by a dark yet lush environment with rain falling overhead, mysterious vegetation, and ancient runes waiting to be deciphered. It really reminded me of the early scenes in Metroid Prime when Samus lands on Talon 4 for the first time. Also in the rain, met with plants and vegetation, as well as various artifacts to be analyzed. Both games nail that strange sense of being isolated out in space, yet surrounded by the unfamiliar at the same time. The environments are packed with detail, encouraging you to uncover all their secrets. I also can't say enough about the slick menu system and HUD in each game. Prime may have felt a little more immersive because of its first-person perspective, which gave Retro Studios the chance to have the game's menu appear as part of Samus's visor, which worked incredibly well. Even though Celine's adventure is third-person, the menu is also incredibly slick, futuristic, and perhaps most important of all, informative. Number 2. Scanning and item discovery. To learn more about the planets in each game, you'll have the ability to scan objects and artifacts along the way. In Prime, you have the ability to switch to your scan visor at any time and look over the world for scannable objects. Returnal has opted instead for a contextual approach, where prompts will appear on screen when you're near an item that can be scanned. To this day, Prime is a game that receives near unanimous praise, yet one of the few qualms some like to nitpick is the scanning and maybe the overuse of said scanning. With Returnal keeping the scanning only as needed, it's possible it will avoid this criticism. I, for one, enjoy it in both games. It feels like a very natural way for someone exploring an unfamiliar planet to learn more about the world. The in-game menus in both games also do an excellent job of displaying and categorizing this information in case you need to reference it again later on. Number 3. Weapon and suit upgrades. This right here has been a staple of Metroid games since the original. You lose all your abilities and then you slowly gather them back, including new abilities throughout the game. From missiles to a dash ability to the morph ball to morph ball bombs, Samus has quite the arsenal to take on space pirates. With Housemarque's pedigree, it should come as no surprise that the weapons in Returnal are incredible. Like Metroid, you'll gather upgrades along the way that enhance your abilities, including allowing you to reach areas that you couldn't before. To explore the world, you'll need both weapon and suit upgrades. And whereas Metroid's power-ups are pretty clear-cut, Returnal instead has power-ups that can actually hinder you while they help you. It's a careful trade-off and one that I'm really enjoying so far in Returnal. Number 4. Female heroines that feel similar. Back in 1986 with the original Metroid, Nintendo surprised the gaming world with a series of secret endings that revealed the game's protagonist was actually female. Now, here in 2021, this may not seem like a big deal as more and more games feature female leads these days, but back then this was quite a surprise to many. Samus remains a gaming icon even today. No thanks to Nintendo, might I add. Seriously, just give us the Prime Collection already. So here we are in 2021, and it's not a huge surprise to have Celine as the main protagonist for Returnal. But credit to games like Metroid, Tomb Raider, Perfect Dark, and plenty of others that have helped pave the way. But it's not just the fact that they're women with blonde hair in a spacesuit. Celine also controls similar to how Samus moves in the 2D titles like Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion. You'll notice right away that she's fast and has a dash ability to help her cross long gaps. It certainly tends to lean more to the arcadey side of things than the realistic side of things. And as far as this specific aspect goes, this is actually different from the Prime games, which moved more like a traditional FPS, except for maybe when Samus was in the Morph Ball mode. At number 5, we have World Navigation. Both the map and vault doors in Returnal look as if they were ripped straight out of Metroid Prime, and I totally say that as a compliment. Now seriously, just check out the map right here. This one's from Metroid Prime, and then compare it to what we have here with Returnal. These look so similar, guys, and nothing wrong with this. I think this is great inspiration from Housemarque looking back at what Retro Studios did, and it actually works really, really well in both games. Now, any Metroid fan is going to know a series staple is backtracking, going through areas that you've already seen once, but now you have a special ability or a special item that you didn't have before that's going to allow you into an area you couldn't reach. Now, I'm still early in Returnal, but I've already noticed some things like this. Now, of course, the format for Returnal is very different. It is a roguelike with a procedural nature, so it's certainly not that same exact open world in the sense that you see in something like Metroid Prime or even Super Metroid. What Prime does so well, and what Returnal is doing well so far, is the sense of progression. What's interesting about those doors in Metroid Prime is Retro actually used it as a clever way to hide some of the loading screens. In fact, there really were no loading screens whatsoever in Metroid Prime, unless you count the little elevator sequence, which again was kind of a clever way for Retro to hide loading to a new area. With PlayStation 5 Superfast SSD, it doesn't seem like Housemarque is using it as a way to hide loading, but in terms of the design perspective, to me, it is clearly inspired by the doors of Metroid Prime. You'll even come across red doors, but you need a special key to access. Metroid had various types of doors as well, which required you to switch to a different beam or even require the missile. Now guys, I am still in the early hours of Returnal, so I can't wait to see what else I find as I play along. This is actually my first Returnal video, so if you guys are enjoying this and you're also a Metroid fan, let me know what similarities you have found, which ones did I miss, which ones did you notice as well, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit that thumbs up before you go. As always, thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.